Hey, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going to be going over the changes to GCD in Shadowlands. Now, this is a pretty big announcement. A lot of people have been pushing for this for a very long time, and I wanted to get a little bit more background into what the heck's going on. Because this is a topic that if you talk to some people that are extremely passionate about, maybe you're not really, maybe you started playing BFA, maybe you started playing before, and maybe you don't really know what's being talked about, especially because nothing really changed during BFA related to this. So I was very interested, and I did see the list of abilities that was chosen to be taken off the GCD, the full list. I'll put the link down below. Things like Pillar of Frost, Empower Rune Weapon, a lot of melee offensive abilities like Incarn, Adrenaline Rush, Shadow Blades, Avatar, Recklessness, things that they used to be off this. And then they were put on the GCD going into BFA. A lot of things were. We'll talk a little bit more about the history of that. And then I'll talk to you specifically about Shaman, because Shaman specifically have not been included on this list, even though Enhance is one of the most high global dependent classes that's out there, especially from a melee perspective. That feels a little bit slow. So I feel a little bit sad about this, but let's go ahead and talk about the changes in general, and then we'll jump into it. What's interesting, though, is back in Legion, the Legion to BFA, there was a big change, and you can go and you can look it up on YouTube, and you'll find a ton of videos like 3 years ago about it. Basically, Blizzard was taking things from being off the GCD to putting them on the GCD. Was it to slow things down? Maybe. Was it to make things more predictable? Maybe. The other thing about it was that when people did, or they were able to stack cooldowns and put it onto like a macro, that is a certain level of complexity, and you have to know how to do that. You have to know how to put it onto a macro. Those are the Swifty macros. They will be returning. You will be able to put your trinket and your multiple potential abilities, if you're a Frost DK, onto a button. When you press that button, it uses all of them, and it doesn't even incur the global cooldown. Then you start doing your damage immediately. We'll look at how what that will look like, and every class will have some version of the Swifty macro, as long as their stuff is off GCD. So, and I also think that the changes overall make sense, and it increases the speed of play. If you're doing if you're using your abilities right now and you keep on getting the GCD, you use a cooldown, you get a GCD. When you press that cooldown, it displays to everyone that you're using it, but then you have a 1.5 second timer before you can actually use it or utilize it. That's actually wasting time off of the cooldown, which is kind of silly if you think about it. And so I think that from a melee sense, it makes a ton of sense, because it allows you to like not only just like pop your cooldown, but immediately keep on doing your damage rotation, which is pretty smooth. In PvP, it's going to result in people being more twitch reaction, like, okay, he just popped everything, oh, quick, because the damage won't stop for that 1.5 seconds. There is a reaction time in PvP. Like for Ascendance, if an Enhanced Shaman goes into Ascendance, you know you have about 1.5 seconds to respond to that. Depending on haste, before he starts pumping, and that actually often is enough time to start reacting, at least, right? And then PvE, it's also a way to keep momentum high, keep things engaged, and keep engaged in the fight. When everything is on the global, it feels like you're just kind of like going through the motions each second. And to be honest, casters kind of feel like this, but for melee particular, I think there's a smoothness of play that is good. Now, the one thing I will say, though, is that it will mean that there will be burst damage in PvP like crazy. People will pop a ton of stuff immediately all together, and they will blow something up. Snap. So that means that healers hopefully will be equipped with things to react to that, and players will have to be responsible for reacting with defensives when that happens. When a warrior pops his trinket, his avatar, his everything else together, and then is already like doing damage immediately, it's going to be kind of scary. So that's something that healers are going to have to look out for. This is a warning sign to them in PvP. And in PvE, for casters, even if you look at this, Death Knight's got a lot, Druid's got a lot, Hunters, that's okay. Mages got these, which is kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting mages of all the classes, because you would think like for a caster, those are some pretty major cooldowns. The other ones are as well, but some things like increase your casting speed and stuff like that. When you use these things, right now, I'll show you what it looks like. We'll start with Mage and Icy Veins. I'll show you what it looks like now, and then what it's going to be. But for casters, I wasn't expecting Warlocks they're huge cooldowns, like massive cooldowns, and now they're going to get them immediately. That means you're on a mage with arcane power. You use your presence of mind, and you get instant arcane blast. There's no reaction time that you can even get there. Hopefully that makes things faster, and hopefully that means that there won't be other things, and especially in PvP, that will like amp up damage, like gushing wounds or maledictions. I think that it would be better for class abilities to be doing damage. I don't know if you agree. Put it down in the comments. This is kind of what has changed so far. I'll put this link down below. Hopefully this is getting updated over time by Icy Veins. So let's go ahead and we're going to get on the Mage. We're going to get Frost Mage. So this is what it looks like on BFA, right? So I'm going to be casting, and I have my trinket here, which is already off GCD. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cast Icy Veins. I have to wait. Now I cast. So it gives me a 1.5 second global cooldown when I press it, and then I can start doing damage. Now some of you might say that's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's mostly from a smoothness of play and snap reaction for things like potentially even PvE. Like, oh, some big pack, all right, click, like big damn, you know what I mean? Having that option makes you feel much more like hands-on with your character, in my opinion. So I think it is pretty smooth. And I was able to already use my on-use trinkets. Now, this is a PvP one, but PvE ones should be similar, where you can now make a macro. Like, I could make a macro, and I could say, like, you know, Swifty /cast, go in, grab my Icy Veins, which is on cooldown, and then I could /cast, I can go into here, grab this, save it, and I could put like a potion on here. I could do a lot of things, especially for World PvP or BGs. Now I can save it, and next time we have the cooldown up, we can press it. It'll use all those things together. And people, every class will now have a Swifty macro pretty much. But that's what it feels like on Mage in BFA. Let's switch over to the good old beta. Now in beta, I'm pressing Frostbolt, right? So very similar. Again, you can see the cast down in the bottom left. And so now what I'm going to do, and it's actually like I literally have to use 2 fingers on 2 different buttons, right? I can't just use my index finger to press everything. So I'm Frostbolting, and then I'm going to press it, and I immediately, but I did no delay. No delay, instant damage, you know what I mean? Instantly able to cast, and you're able to see that. So it was funny, like, I'm just not used to playing with things off GCD. So the first time I even pressed it, I was like, dude, I have to press 2 buttons at once. like that's perfectly fine. You don't want to like press one, press the cooldown, press whatever. The whole point is you're going fast. So you have to like press both immediately. So you basically can keep frostbolting while you press that off GCD. So it's actually really nice, just like shears and stuff like that, or interrupts. All interrupts are really off GCD, right? Like that. That's how you can tell us if it doesn't have the spinny circle, just in case you didn't know. So that was Frost Mage. Let's jump over to Frost DK. That is a even better example to show you what it looks like. All right, now we're on the DK. I'll show you which abilities were taken off the GCD. It's pretty funny, actually. Frost DK did quite a fixing here. All right, so Pillar of Frost is off. Empowered Rune Weapon, but this is BFA. So when I press them to do my rotation, basically this is what it looks like. Ready? I have to press Pillar of Frost, then I have to press Rune Forge Weapon, and now I start doing damage. That took me a total of 3 to 4 seconds to get the ball even started, to even start doing damage. That was just buffing myself. Now, okay, you might say, well, don't stack them then you only have 1.5 seconds. Yeah, but it just doesn't feel nice, and then taking them off global will be a really smooth thing. Now, these are offensive cooldowns, remember, right? But let's go ahead and go over to the beta, right? The beta, over this, like, watch this crap, dude. Here they are, Empowered Runeforge, Pillar of Frost, and I'm going to use Frostworm to show you how immediate the damage is. Ready? Dude, actually, I'm going to make a macro. I'm actually going to make a macro. It'll be better. I was going to press them, but I think this is just even a better way, like FDK Swifty. You know what I mean? We're just going to have these. This is the new way. So we're going to go ahead and press these. Now, in all circumstances, it might not be the best to stack cooldowns, right? So you're going to have to figure that out by yourself. You know, that's just something you're going to have to be aware of, because not everyone's going to just press the button, you know, and just call it a day. So what I did is I made a macro, right? Empowered Rune Weapon, Pillar of Frost, and then Frostworm's Fury, which is something that incurs the GCD, but is actually an offensive ability. So now let me go ahead. It's right. I'll put it right here. I'm going to press it. It's going to use all 3 things at once. Ready? 1 button. Did all those things. And there she is. I got the buffs up there all at once. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be macroing in your offensives to your cast abilities, probably to make it as smooth as possible, so you don't have to do what I just did earlier, which is pressing the 2 buttons at once. So that's the deal. Now, if I go to Shaman, and regarding Shaman, thank you guys for giving me kind of your feedback as well. So we'll kind of look at that first for Shaman, and then we'll go into my thoughts about some of the GCDs, which I've kind of already said a few things. But it was, you know, you said about talking about other classes as well. Unholy only got 1. Definitely heard that there is a lot of globals for Unholy that they definitely need to be reduced. I hope Blizzard's not done with this, but I hope they're reading your comments, at least on my YouTube channel. They should take our totems off of GCD, in my opinion. I totally agree. I think the totems should all share a cooldown together, and that should be all off the GCD. I think it would make it smooth. I think it would make it not punish us for potentially using utility, because we have a lot of utility, a freaking lot of totems. Now, not as many as the olden days, but still. They've got Ascendance. I will show you what this means. I totally agree. I also think because Ascendance doesn't do anything when you press it immediately, like an immediate damage or, into an AoE or a single target, that's actually kind of punishing us. In a way. The other thing is Bloodlust. Bloodlust also, in PvP, it has a GCD when you take Shamanism. When you don't, when you're in PvE, it does not have a GCD. So just keep that in mind when we talk about that as well. Shaman Totems, totally agree. Using Ellie. So Ellie is not something we're talking about right now because I was saying Ascendance, but Ascendance actually for Ellie as well. It would be great if Ascendance, when you press on Ellie, did something as well, like immediate damage, or it just... or it was off the GCD to allow us to keep casting. It would make Ascendance on Ellie much more viable, especially in PvP. But even in PvE, it would just make things much more smooth. Paladin ones. Paladin got a lot of love. Shamanism, exactly. We were just talking about that. Forgot Unholy. Yep. That's going to be awesome. Make Ascendance great. Yep. So I appreciate all the feedback, guys. Yep. Or Shield. Yeah, that would be nice. The shields off GCD would be kind of nice as well. We'd like that. Remorseless Winter for Frost. Frost did get a lot. Bring back PvP gear. Oh, geez. Yep. They need drastics. They need some changes, that's for sure. Tremor off GCD. Certain things off GCD, even grounding, it would be kind of really strong. But to be honest, we might need to react that fast now because of other offensives being on cooldown. Having Tremor and Grounding off GCD might match the Icy Veins not in GCD anymore, right? So let's go ahead and I'll show you what... Oh, and by the way, I'll have a different video about the transmogging these axes. They're freaking beautiful. But you'll find that down in the description. But what we're talking about with Ascendance is the following, right? Like when I want to go into combat, right? When I want to combat, what am I even saying? When I want to go in, right? I have to Flame Shock first. I have to drop my Wind Fury first, and then I start going. And then to do my actual burst, number one, I could press Wolves. That gives me a GCD. Then I would have to press Bloodlust. Pretend this gives me a GCD. It doesn't. And then I would have to press Ascendance, which gives me a GCD. And now I start to do damage. It's not fluid, and there's too many GCDs I need to press. Now I'm kind of on the roll, right? But that was once I got all my momentum going. Similar to Frost DK, similar to Frost Mage, they should be making similar changes to Enhanced Shaman, particularly, and I'll get to Ellie, but Enhanced specifically. This is the one I think really needs the help. Is specifically Ascendance, potentially Feral Wolves, the Totems. The shields was a pretty creative one, and then Bloodlust in PvP. The other thing I'll mention is Stormkeeper. Stormkeeper was brought to the Enhanced Toolkit this X-Pack, right? I personally think that this for Enhanced should not have a cast time and should not give you a GCD. Or maybe it could even do something like buff your Storm Strikes and not your Lightning Bolts. That's something else, but basically this is Blizzard said that this was actually good to be on the GCD because it has an epic animation and then it does something awesome, right? They compared it to meta, and I don't think that is a good comparison. I'm sorry, but I just don't think so. Like when I use it, right? It's a really cool animation, looks sweet, and then I get these, lightning bolts on instant cast, and they're buffed, and it does do some pretty good damage. But I'm just saying, I just personally don't think it deserves the cast time, and maybe that's, because if it has a cast time, then it has to basically be on GCD. I would think. But let me know what you think about Stormkeeper as well. Now let's talk a little bit about Ellie. We can even talk about Resto. That's one of the things you probably noticed is that there's not any healers on these lists. Like the healing, there's no healing cooldowns here. Priest got Spirit Shell, but that's kind of a cooldown. But there's nothing here for like Resto Druid or things like that. I guess. No, yeah, there's nothing for healers, which is kind of interesting to me, other than potential paladins with Avenging Wrath, right? Because that is actually a cooldown. So nothing for our druid, nothing for our shaman. So maybe we'll talk about that as well. But for Ellie, again with Ascendance, and even Stormkeeper, I think should not have a cast time, but that's just me. Ascendance, if they made Ascendance so that when I pressed it, it did instant damage and it didn't incur that global cooldown, it would make it much more viable in PvP and in PvE. It would make it a much more smooth thing to be using, and I think it's just the right thing to do. So that's that. Otherwise, I agree with all the other things that we've been talking about, having shields, having totems, all those things not in global, and also like my Fire Ally. Maybe make my Fire Ally not in global. I don't see why that would be necessarily game-breaking, potentially nice. It is a 2.5 minute cooldown. It's pretty beefy. Now, lastly for Resto, honestly, it's tough to say what healer things should not be on GCD because I think, again, if you had Grounding Totem, And if you had certain totems on a different GCD, that would help. That might even extend itself to Earthen Wall totem, which would be pretty good. Healing stream totem on a different GCD than your heals, I think that would be nice. But again, that might be a little, I don't know if that would be a little too strong depending on the tuning, but I think those would be a good additions to it. Even the root totem, like we have a ton of totems, particularly, you know, particularly a freaking shaman, dude, or resto shaman. Look at all these different totems, man. Look at all of them. Look at all of them. I have a million of them. But, and that's not even the PvP ones. I could drop 2 more of those. But that's what I think about Shaman. Particularly Enhance, I'm kind of mainly focused on because they've been such a rough place for so long. But Ellie and Resto could use a little bit of GCD love as well, especially since they're handing it out. Now, the interesting thing to me is that Ascendance can be popped, right? And when you pop it, it does the big AoE heal. That's what it should do for the other ones as well. For the Ellie, for the Enhance. Do that burst damage in an AoE fashion. So I think that would be a pretty awesome addition. So with that being said, guys, I wanted to just go over the GCDs, let you know what I think from a Shaman perspective. The other thing I almost forgot of, my buddy recommended I point this one out as well. I can't because I'm in combat, but there is a PvP talent for Thunder Charge, which is the one that reduces the CDs, your cooldown, increases your cooldown recovery rate, so your cooldowns go down or less. That's also on GCD, which is right here, Thunder Charge. That's also on GCD. So Enhance has weight, particularly Enhance, has so many things on GCD, and it already feels like it can't ramp up quick enough, particularly in PvP. Even in PvE, the ramp up time is kind of hurting it. So those are kind of my things, and that's how I think about Shaman. That's how I think about other classes. If you guys think that other GCDs should be put up there, let me know. Or taken down, I should say. Let me know. From a defensive standpoint, we haven't seen things like change with the GCDs based on the current list, but maybe more things will come. So let me know, defensively, offensively, what do you think should be removed from the GCD? And put it down below, guys. And thank you so much for watching the video. I know about 80% of you now, it used to be 85, now it's 80, have not subbed to the channel. I hope this video has convinced you that I'm going to keep pumping that content out, and I want to thank you guys for all your support. Definitely hit that sub button, and come by the stream every day at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/TiqqleThis. And we'll keep testing. See you in Shadowlands.